Let's jump right into this explainer and begin our descent into the absolute blackness of the Pacific Ocean. We're exploring a place so incredibly alien, so utterly isolated from the world we know, that for the longest time, science just assumed it was a dead zone. But, as we're going to see, the Mariana Trench is absolutely buzzing with life.
So think about this for a second. What actually happens to biological life when you take away all the sunlight, drop the temperature to near freezing, and literally pile 7 miles of crushing ocean water on top of it? Well, it forces us to completely throw out the biological rulebook.
Section 1. Journey to the absolute bottom.
We're dropping way beyond the reach of sunlight into a world where human survival is literally impossible without some hardcore, specialized engineering. The sheer scale here is kinda hard to wrap your head around. Picture this. You could stack 11 Eiffel Towers end to end or drop the entire mass of Mount Everest right into the trench, and you know what? You'd still have over a mile of dark water sitting right above the peak. We are descending deeper into the Earth than commercial airplanes fly up in the sky.
And because of all that water, the environment at the very bottom is staggeringly extreme. The water temperature is constantly hovering near freezing, right around 2 degrees Celsius. But the real game changer down here? It's the pressure. At the bottom, the pressure crushes inward from every conceivable direction at an unbelievable 16,000 pounds per square inch.
Now, to put that into perspective, this physical extreme is instantly lethal to any surface biology. If you take a standard styrofoam cup and lower it to that depth, that 16,000 psi shrinks it down to the size of a thimble in the blink of an eye. For an unprotected human body, it would be instantly catastrophic. Literally every single airspace would collapse simultaneously, in a matter of milliseconds. No way around it.
Section 2. Surviving the crushing extremes.
So how on earth does anything find the energy to survive when the sun is 7 miles away? Since the normal sunlight-driven food chain ends way above, the only real lifeline for this deep Hadal zone is something called marine snow. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a continuous, gentle rain of dead organic matter and biological debris just drifting down from the sunlit world above. But because the depth is so immense, this slow-motion blizzard takes decades just to reach the bottom. It is absolutely the only connection between the bottom of the trench and the living world at the surface.
Section 3. The impossible deep-sea biology.
You know, textbooks used to say active life couldn't possibly exist here, but the flat, gray sediment at 36,000 feet is actually crawling with impossible life. Check this out. At 27,000 feet, we find the Hadal snailfish. This is the deepest living fish ever recorded on Earth. It looks like a translucent ghost. It's almost entirely see-through, so you can see its organs right through its skin. Its eyes are completely useless in the permanent darkness, but it has these highly developed lateral lines that let it sense the tiny pressure changes of its prey. It literally navigates pure blackness with incredible precision.
But wait, how does its body not just completely crush under that pressure? Well, pharmaceutical companies are actually studying its elegant survival mechanism right now. Its cells are absolutely packed with a chemical called trimethylamine oxide. This compound counteracts that insane 16,000 psi pressure right at the molecular level, physically stopping the fish's cell membranes from collapsing in on themselves. It's just a brilliant biological workaround to an otherwise totally lethal environment.
But while the snailfish is definitely fascinating, it doesn't actually rule the trench. Believe it or not, a massive 90% of all animal biomass on the trench floor is just an army of sea cucumbers. Seriously, 90%. They stretch out endlessly, crawling over the gray sediment, just constantly processing the mud to extract those tiny little nutrients from the marine snow. In a place where food is measured in mere grams per square meter per year, their metabolic efficiency is totally unmatched.
And yet, even amidst all this extreme harshness, we find creatures of just surprising elegance. Take the Dumbo octopus, hanging out at 13,000 feet. It peacefully flaps its ear-like fins through the crushing darkness. Its semi-transparent body glows faintly, moving with this unexpected gentleness in an environment that really should make biological processes impossible.
Now, even more bizarre are the giant, single-celled organisms resting on the floor. Yeah, Foraminifera growing up to 4 inches across, and Xenophyophores that are a staggering 8 inches across. We're talking about single, unbroken cells that are completely visible to the naked eye. They build these intricate protective shells out of sediment and manage to perform the complex biological work of trillions of specialized cells. And they do all of this without a brain, without a nervous system, or even a single organ. Wild, right?
Then we've got the amphipods. When a rare piece of larger organic matter finally does hit the floor, these small crustaceans could detect the foodfall from literally miles away. They swarm in by the thousands, converging on the debris and stripping it entirely clean in a matter of hours. They are basically the apex scavengers of the absolute deep.
Section 4. Humanity's deepest toxic footprint.
Okay, so here's where things take a sharp, kind of disturbing twist at the very bottom of the ocean. It turns out we actually reached the Mariana Trench long before our submarines ever did. Back in 2017, a scientific laboratory analysis looked really closely at those deep-sea amphipods we just talked about, and the results, honestly, they were shocking. The analysis revealed that the amphipods collected from the absolute deepest point of the Mariana Trench contained toxic pollutants, specifically PCBs, at concentrations 50 times higher than what you'd find in some of the most heavily polluted rivers in China.
So you might be wondering, how does pollution even get 7 miles down? Well, it starts when plastic and chemical waste enter the sunlit surface. As these contaminants slowly sink over the decades, they concentrate as they move down through the water column. When they finally reach the bottom, they're ingested by these bottom-dwelling animals that have absolutely zero evolutionary defenses against synthetic chemicals. So they end up accumulating these toxins in their bodies at alarming rates.
And it's not just microscopic chemicals down there either. Research submersibles have literally found intact plastic shopping bags and plastic bottles resting completely undisturbed on the deepest, darkest sediment on Earth. Our human industrial waste actually managed to conquer the absolute bottom of the planet before science even fully finished counting the species that live there.
Section 5. Unanswered Mysteries of the Trench.
But despite everything we've discovered, the trench still holds some incredible scientific secrets that totally defy our current understanding. For instance, one of the wildest paradoxes on the ocean floor is the temperature gradient around hydrothermal vents. You've got these vents violently erupting water heated by the Earth's interior at over 700 degrees Fahrenheit, shooting directly into surrounding trench water that's sitting barely above freezing at 2 degrees Celsius. And yet, specialized thermophile organisms somehow thrive perfectly in this impossible gradient, living simultaneously between near boiling and near freezing conditions.
And the sheer scale of time down here? It's just staggering. The Mariana Trench has been sitting in complete, undisturbed darkness for 500 million years. To put that into perspective, that is more than 250 million years before the very first dinosaurs even appeared on land. The creatures at the bottom of the trench have been undergoing highly specialized, entirely independent evolution in complete isolation for 500 million years.
Which brings us to the great unknowns. Science is still desperately trying to figure out these 3 massive mysteries. First up, where does the genetic diversity of such incredibly isolated small populations even come from? Second, exactly how does the chemical energy from these hydrothermal vents support such complex food webs without a single drop of sunlight or photosynthesis? And third, given that our submersibles have only seen a tiny fraction of it, just how much of the vast trench floor actually contains this impossible animal life?
As we look at this ghostly snailfish gliding blindly through permanent night, a creature perfectly adapted to its crushing environment, having never known anything else in its entire evolutionary history, we're left with a pretty profound realization. We really have to ask ourselves, if our plastic and chemical waste managed to conquer the deepest, most isolated darkness on Earth before our understanding of it did, what does that truly say about the scale of our footprint on this planet? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.